And you're very welcome to the Town End podcast. It's season 2, episode 20, and we've just chalked up our 9th win of the year. Fortress Oriel Park has not been penetrated once again. It's a hell of a run we're having in Oriel Park. To talk through the game with me, we have Gally at the moment. Gally, how are you?
Evening. Well, good night now. What time are we? A bit late. We should look at.
This run at Oriel Park is ridiculous this year. I mean, you go to, I suppose, in the league, you're looking at the end of last year, Derry, last game of the season. The last time we've lost, to go to the break in this season undefeated in Oriel Park is just a hell of a record.
Yeah, it's and we spoke about it last season as well, and I think the home form had to improve. And I mean, it's only when we went through the stats before we came on air. It is an incredible run. I think I actually had it down that we were beaten by Drogheda, but we're talking that's pre-season game, so we actually have to go back to next year. It's a credit to Stephen the way he set up the team, the signings he's made, maybe the mental attitude towards it as well. We're strong at home. Let's be unbeatable at home if we're going to be unbeatable anywhere. But yeah, it's fantastic, and it's not. They haven't been world-class games at home. They haven't been brilliant all season, but I mean, they've gotten the job done. Just to cut really short, even the extra 5 minutes that went up tonight, I was dreading the extra 5 minutes because I didn't know if we could have that little bit in us. Yeah, that extra time. But that's a testament to the mental strength of the lads and, hanging in there, because 1-0 against a team that's chasing you in the league isn't easy. But the run they've had, I think we're 7 wins, 2 draws, or 8 wins, 2 draws, something like that.
9.
9, even better. So it's
tonight now. That's our 18th game and our 9th win.
It's fantastic. And that look, you don't win anything generally. You don't have a chance of winning if you can't. You challenge at home. You can't compete at home. You need to make away teams come to your ground thinking we're not going to get into here tonight. And that's exactly what Stephen's created here.
Yeah. Look, we'll go through the game now in a second, and the Dundalk Democrats, Niall Newbury, will be joining us fairly shortly as well. Just there's a few coming in already, so don't forget we will do a pizza tonight for your man of the match nominations. So if you want to enter, just comment in who your suggestion is for our man of the match, and between myself, Gally, and Niall, we'll pick one ourselves, and then we'll pick a winner at random too. So this was completely billed, wasn't it, as Pat's coming back to Oriel Park after they had a go with us in Inchicore with Stephen O'Donnell, and obviously the main feature on there is we're taking it back tonight. And there must be some justification for him now when he sits and looks at the table and said, did I make the right decision or not? Wow, yeah, definitely have.
Exactly. And that, I think we kind of talked about it in pre-season, that first game that, when we were going to play Pats, and that was a nice wee kind of curtain raiser, a nice wee kind of battle of the two at the start of the season. But tonight's match was kind of, I think we mentioned it on Monday's podcast, the fact that there's a break coming up as well. This was almost a perfect fixture for us. Packed Oriel Park, I think we're just under 3,000 people at it. Pats, the away team, the visiting team. There's that little bit of bite, that little bit of high court threatening behind the scenes and stuff like that.
It's like a bit of high court spice.
Yeah, and even from early doors, tackles were hard. I mean, we'll talk about the game. It was definitely a better first half than second half, but even from the tackles, there was that wee bit of bite. Clancy had the lads ready to go. Donald definitely had them ready to go, especially Benson playing as well. And yeah, we have that little bit of aggro now between the two clubs because of what went on at the end of last season. And it's nice. It's nice to have that wee bit, because you got Drogheda back into it. We're playing Drogheda again. You've got your Rovers, although they've kind of been a bit ahead of us over the last couple of seasons. But there's that wee bit of bite tonight, and you could definitely see it on the pitch. I mean, I said the same last Friday and Monday night. I don't want to be talking about a referee, but he didn't do himself any favours. I mean, I don't know how many he booked tonight, but he missed about 20 of them. They could have all been booked at one stage. The tackles, it's stupid.
It was high foot all over the place, and he let everything run.
Sake.
Yeah,
it was crazy. The line was just as bad. But look, years ago we would have had the Buckley team that won the league, and then you've got to come. You got Kenny involved with Dundalk, and there was always a wee bit there. with Killian Brennan playing and stuff like that. Since then, there hasn't really been that little bit of bite, that little bit of kind of tension between them. And now there is. And I think that'll probably carry on now for the next maybe 2 or 3 seasons. But yeah, it's good. Look, it's nice to get the win over them. It definitely is, yeah.
Yeah, it's something that Flano said to me at the end of the match tonight, and he's just popped it up there. Like, the fact that Darren Burns did not start was brilliant, because Jesus, when he came on, I'd say Dara Leahy is still spinning around.
Yeah, and I
last
think
20
the substitution might have showed that as well.
Oh yeah, and it was 100% right, because to get Sambone in there just to do something, because everything was coming down one direction each time, coming down that side, cutting inside each time. And if it wasn't for Nathan Shepherd standing up to a couple of those, but Nathan Shepherd got called in very early into the match. It was the first couple of minutes, and he had to tip one over the bar straight away, because I suppose that was a sign of things to come. But they really created very little then after that, didn't they?
Yeah, they seem to be. I tell you what, I couldn't. Their centre halves seem to be on the ball a lot. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Forrester's pulling the strings in midfield, but they seem to be playing like 2 excellent centre halves generally. But they seem to be. They offered nothing in the final third. They just seem to have that little bit of great pass between the defence. Forrester was kind of, he'd be like a poor man's version of Keith Ward there, or even Greg Sloggan in midfield. But they just seem to. I said last week on Monday night, I was sure there was going to be goals in the game. I thought we'd get maybe, like, I went for 2-1, but I was sure we were going to get a couple of goals from each club. But they never, I was only really worried in the last maybe 5 or 6 minutes when the injury time went up. They never really seemed to have that little bit of, like, Owen Doyle's had a bit of a pop shot from maybe 30 yards.
Yeah.
There's more crack at the boys chasing the ball in the town end, the kids, rather than, what he'd done in the game. But they never really seemed to threaten. I mean, yeah, they were in 1 or twice, but nothing really. Like Shepherd, like you mentioned there, Shepherd, I don't want to say he won the points for us, but he definitely had a massive say in it. Like, I mean, like his reflexes, his timing is just sensational.
In particular, one in the second half, which we'll get in as well. We kind of grew into the game then, and I think we started to take the run of the middle of the park. And someone who we talked about probably in the past 3 weeks more often than not has been Greg Sloggett. And I think tonight he just showed again his real class. There was a moment where he was rolling out with the ball. There was 2 players around him, and I thought if he continues his run, he's going to run into the 2 of them and they're going to sandwich him and steal the ball off him. And he just dropped his shoulder and went the opposite direction and left them 2 of them standing. I just went, wow, he's really coming in. I think since O'Donnell has put him in to the one position, because previously he's been moved around and had a different asset of him. In particular, when Robbie Benson plays, I think he's very finite about what he needs to do as a player, and now he's just flourishing as a result. Yeah,
obviously we are biased. Like, anything we mention, I don't want anybody to get because we've sponsored him from the podcast, but I mean, what a call we've made. I mean, he's played I would love to see his stat sports, his engine, the distance he must travel in the game.
Yeah,
his engine is absolutely incredible. We knew he was a good footballer when we signed him. We'd seen him at UCD, we'd seen him at Derry. I seen him run a preseason game playing for UCD at Oriel Park a couple of seasons ago, and he was top class. But he's definitely been watching, the likes of a Benson has brought him on. I don't mean brought him on, but definitely improved him as a technically gifted footballer. We kind of had him down as he was almost a CDM last year, even centre back at one stage.
Yeah. Like
himself and Stanton last year, we were probably plucking for Stanton more because he's probably better consistently. But I mean, he's absolutely come into his own this season. He's like the saxophone, the piano, the guitar's paying off. I mean, he's sensational again tonight. And maybe we're over egging it now. He might be in the run of a man in the match. We don't know. I know Conley's been up a couple of times, but he's been excellent. And I know we had Gav on earlier in the season, and we were all kind of talking about Paul Doyle. But as long as Slogger plays like that, and you've also got Robbie Benson, even Adams tonight as well. Paul Doyle will struggle. I mean, which is a surprise, because I kind of thought Sloggett would struggle maybe because of what happened last season. But we've mentioned before the crowds coming back to Oriel Park. Himself and Lee, he didn't really get a lot of that. He's been excellent again, excellent tonight. I mean, like you said, drop of the shoulder. He's been going to the Keith Ward School of dancing there. It's obviously showing up in training, and I think he's been phenomenal this season.
Yeah, and it's credit where credit's due as well, because you just mentioned it there. Like last season, maybe at times it was hard to gauge where we were as a football club and where players were, because everything else that was going on around the club would definitely take the light off it. And I think we were in and around this time last year where we went and we beat Rovers, but then took an absolute tanking at Bows. Yeah. And then went and got a win at Pats. I mean, that's the way we were last year. You could pull out these big results and then take an absolute hammering. Like,
it was
very
hard to season,
yeah, it was very hard to see a consistency with players. But I think what you're probably seeing now, in particular with Greg Sloggett, and I think even if you look at Hooban and the way he's playing in this year, you're the kind of class that these lads always had is probably getting a chance to flourish now. On a team, and I think Skip's probably created that environment as well. Yeah. That if Greg goes and plays the way he can play, you've got a Robbie Benson there as well to work with you. And,
absolutely.
And, it's creating that environment. Just our guest is here, so we'll bring in the Dundalk Democrats, Niall Newbury. Niall, how are you, pal?
How are you, lads? All good.
You're practically a member of the team now. You're not a guest anymore. You're practically
an honorary member, definitely.
Happy to do so, guys. Happy to be
yourself
here.
And Jerry Malone are honorary members.
Well, Chris, you're going to have to bring Jerry Malone on next week now. Because in 3 weeks' time against Shamrock Rovers, because he's out for your blood by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I was trying to tell Andrew earlier on, just before the podcast, I was on my way to the car and Jerry Malone yelled at me like I was still back in school, frog march me up the whole Carrick Road end and past all the players as well, like calling my name, demanding to be on the podcast. So yeah, look, I'll put it out here now. Jerry Malone will be on 17th of June after Shamrock Rovers.
Yeah,
that's it.
I can't put it in the diary, folks.
You'll get 1 million views for that, I'd say.
Yeah, and no, we were just talking about Greg Sloggett there and how he's really come into himself this year. That maybe last year it was harder to judge him because of the inconsistencies of the team, but tonight was just another real Rolls Royce performance by him.
Yes, it was, and Greg Sloggett actually has been probably one of our better players this season, and he's just, he seems to be taking on that sort of a role now, which he wasn't, obviously, as you mentioned, Chris, last year. It's probably no secret at this point that probably the majority of the players that were established at the club wouldn't have been here had there been a change in ownership and management. And Greg Sloggett's probably one of those players, and he's really, he was exceptional tonight, along with many players. But he in particular, because he had come under a lot of scrutiny or maybe criticism of people maybe I'd spoken to in town at times. Maybe it's very difficult to come in and try and fill somebody like Chris Shields' boots. It's not an easy task by any means. And this season, he's been so consistent. Particularly in the home matches, but recently in away performances as well, where Dundalk have now started to put some points on the board away from home. And he's sort of marshalling the midfield at the minute, and not just Greg as well. Like Paul Doyle came in tonight and put in a good shift when he came on. Has improved as the season's gone on. Joe Adams, is a good option as well. I just think but Sloggett, Greg Sloggett in particular, has really, really taken hold of that midfield this season, and he was superb tonight, as were many players, I thought.
Yeah, it's funny. I think so far, the way our man in a match going, it's probably down between two people. It's probably Connolly and it's probably Nathan Shepherd, and it's inching away in one direction. But we'll come to that fairly shortly. Now we were literally just about to talk about the goal tonight that separated the two sides. Gary, it must have been only 2 weeks ago we were talking about the improvement as well in Dan Kelly, saying that we love him to add goals. That's because he's been in the positions, and we know there was a real good footballer in there. I mean, what a finish tonight! The composure to be in the right place. Hoping that the defenders got themselves muddled up, but to even have the gall to think that it might get in there, it was a fab finish.
Yeah, it was. I mean, are you talking to me, Chris? Sorry.
Sorry. I didn't say Gary.
I'm breaking up here, so I just caught the end of that. I hope I'm not breaking up on your end.
No.
Yeah, it's like And I hold my hand up on Dan Kelly. I hammered him last year. I honestly, and Niall just mentioned with the new takeover, some of them mightn't have been here, and he would have been one of them for me. I just didn't think. I don't want to be critical. I think I addressed him as kind of put him in the same bracket as Dylan Connolly that we would have had a couple of seasons ago, where he was all pace. He was kind of all buck, no bang, if that's the best way of putting it. But he seemed to be really quick. He could chase a ball, but just had no end product. And this season, not that he had a bad season last year, but for me, he just didn't do it. And I honestly didn't think he get signed. But he's been like, what do we know about football? He's been like, he's a revelation, and he looks fitter. Now I know that there's not a pick on him. Like, you probably do with a ham sandwich, but he looks lean. He looks fit. Like tonight's goal, he doesn't score it last season. No, that wee bit of anticipation. I know the defender had a nightmare for it, but he just looks like he wants it more, and he's playing a bit more forward. I know he's a winger out and out, but he'd swapped. I've seen him swap at Hooben once or twice in the match. I think I'm not going to say he's a complete forward player, but I definitely think he's a massive player for Dundalk this season. As Niall was saying with the likes of Greg Sloggett, it's like two new signings. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be slagging him off from last year and talking about that, but I think he's excellent. Yeah, I think he's like, I
think, Andrew, the thing about Daniel Kelly at the moment is he's playing with so much confidence.
Yeah, exactly.
Which you just didn't see last year. And, we don't want to harp on about last year or too much, you know what I mean? But, the confidence of the players was shot, and you could see that. And, Dan Kelly was definitely one of those players, and he's gone on record as saying he probably wouldn't be at the club had there not been a change in the management and the ownership. And, he's really flourishing this year. And actually, Skip had actually mentioned it after the game against Harps on Monday night, where he got the winner again in a 1-0 win, that, he's really added goals and assists to his game this year. But even the goal tonight, there was nothing there, and he just put Curtis and Birmingham under pressure and forced both players into a mistake, and just made a nuisance of himself and sort of nipped in and then rounded the Pat's goalkeeper and Anang, and finished into an empty net, and that's proven again to be the decisive goal, as was the case on Monday night. And two very hard fought 1-0 wins for Dundalk, and that's 6 points that Daniel Kelly has effectively won the team in the last week, which is massive. And he's another player that's really upped his game this year. And I simply do put it down to just a manager coming in and instilling confidence in the players. You can see obviously there's a lot of new players that came in, Connolly being one of them, who's been sensational. Shepherd, the goalkeeper, has been a revelation. But the players that were there last year as part of a bit of a it was a bit of a mess, to say the least. You know what I mean? Last season, and it was very difficult for any player to kind of flourish in that environment. And but Sloggett and Kelly are definitely two great examples of players who were there last year who weren't performing naturally, who've now, they look like totally different players. They look like they're playing with such confidence and playing with a smile on their face, and you can see that the whole team just wants to play for the manager, and that's the big difference for me at the minute.
Yeah, and Gally, like you touched on it there, there's an air of confidence around Dan Kelly now, and I think it's probably something we've all said, that he's got the ability to beat players, but sometimes he just probably lacked the confidence last year, and the head would go down, and then the balls, the passes could be way off for the next wee while, because it's dwelling in his mind towards this year. It's just, his head down, he's suddenly in the right positions, and he's getting the goals, he's getting assists this year. It's like I say, it's a completely new player, isn't it?
Yeah, and I was kind of, to go back on what I was saying with him last, I was more annoyed that he his crossing ability wasn't great, but then you see him this year, and he doesn't really need to. He doesn't, because he's cutting in, he's playing in behind Hooben a lot of the times. He's getting in on the centre halves. He doesn't really need to have that assist, or Darren Meenan from a couple of years ago, the assist king as we call him here. But we don't need to. He doesn't need to be that type of player, because that's what you have the likes of Bradley for as well, and Keith Ward on the other side. I think he's like, and I think I might have said this before, if Hooben doesn't start up front, for me, Dan Kelly goes in, and that's ahead of McMillan, or John Martin, because I think there's not a centre half that will live with him once he goes past him. There's nobody that'll catch him, and it was always that little bit of finishing 1-on-1. But like Niall was saying, that anticipation for tonight. I mean, again, there's nothing there. There's a dodgy slice pass from Birmingham on the halfway line. I think it's him that actually heads it back as well later on. He's had a nightmare that 7 seconds. But Dan Kelly of old, even Pat Hooben tonight mightn't have anticipated that. But that's just it's all that confidence, that mentality, and that's what Stevie's brought him. That's that. hand on the shoulder. Just, forget last season, write it off, we're going again. And that's exactly what was needed.
I've always felt like, even when we first signed Dan Kelly, that I always saw him as something of maybe a raw talent. He came through the Leinster Senior League, and came at Bray Wanderers, and then had a good spell at Bows, and got a move to Dundalk in the back of that. And I always felt like he was a player who could have burst on the scene, but his progress was just hampered with the absolute chaos that surrounded the club over the last 2-3 years. And I just feel now maybe finally we're going to start seeing a Dan Kelly that we all kind of wanted to see and hoped we'd see. Because I just think his progress was hampered, but I do think he's still quite young, and he's still got a lot of potential to improve even more, and I think he's done that this year. And he's I think he's a second top scorer now. That's 5 goals this season now. He has, and that's not bad at this stage of the season from playing on the wing. You know what I mean? I know he's played in a more sort of attacking role in some games, but his stats at the minute are quite good, and they're right up there with any winger in the league, I suppose. And he's having a really, really, really good spell at the minute.
Yeah, I think Adrian Taft mentioned on the stream that it took him 2 seasons. There has 2 seasons to get 5 goals, and he's already done half the season this year. So it really shows.
Amazing,
Kelly, quick mention just about Pat Hoban tonight. Obviously lumped in that ball for the goal too, but it's another thing that it's very rare that Pat has a game where he hasn't either scored a goal or created something. So he just keeps racking up the assists and goals this year too, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, look, even centre halves know what they're going to get with Pat Hoban when the game starts. I mean, he is reliable. And tonight, he looked a little bit annoyed coming off. I'm sure what you don't want to happen is you don't want that record to be on him all the time. You don't want that chasing. Like, that could mentally drain him before he starts if he overthinks it. But I don't know if he would allow that to happen. But I mean, look, a bad Pat Hoban is better than almost anybody in the league, So, like, I mean, you've got a supposed superstar on the other end, Owen Doyle, who's hardly done a thing all night. So there's a world of difference between the two. You wouldn't swap him for anybody. But yeah, I mean, look, he's come off. I seen him coming off onto the bench. I thought he didn't look too impressed. But look, he's a striker. He's obviously annoyed he hasn't scored. He hasn't. But he does have an influence. I mean, he plays that deep on the field half the time. It wasn't as deep as he's been in a lot of games. I think it was one game in the season he looked he was playing central midfield at one stage with Sloggett. But yeah, look, that's we'll allow him one of those nights. If we're coming out 1-0 wins, he's done enough.
Niall, I think we'd be more annoyed, Niall, if we had players coming off who are happy to come off.
Yeah, and I think absolutely, and I think, as Andrew said, I think he probably has the record in his own mind as well. Like, what I mean? And he's a striker and he wants to score goals, and all good strikers want to stay on the pitch and score as many goals as possible. And even though the team has got the win tonight, he hasn't gone on the score sheet, and that will probably frustrate any striker. But I have to say, he's another player, Pat Hoban, who's just I know last year, don't get me wrong, he scored plenty of goals for us last season, but I think we mentioned on this podcast a couple of times maybe some of his mannerisms at times weren't, and maybe his body language wasn't great at times last year. He's looking like the Patrick Hoban of old, really, and he's actually developed into a better sort of footballer, I think, over the last number of months. Whereas people might have saw him as just a finisher, do you know what I mean, in the box before that. And he seems to be developing a lot more into his game, and he's becoming a more sort of senior striker, if that makes sense. And he's able to bring other players into the game, and he's actually been he's although he hasn't got as many goals as maybe he would have liked in the last couple of matches or the last few matches, he's been sensational. His hold up play is unbelievable. He played a big part in the goal tonight. Hooks the ball over the top, rather unconventionally, but that ultimately leads to the goal. He's having a great spell. And he's working so hard. He's a workhorse at the minute, and he's tracking back a lot more. He's getting involved in the overall play. He's becoming the player that I always wanted him to be. You know what I mean? Like, because I used to always reference David McMillan being a better sort of player in a team environment sometimes. You know what I mean? In terms of tracking back and getting involved in outside the box more so. But Hoban's now developing into that sort of player. Which is great, which is only going to be good news for us as Dundalk supporters. Because, I certainly wouldn't want to play against Patrick Hoban in that kind of humour. You know what I mean? So
I think Desmond tonight had the two of them were at it tonight. Like, in fairness, Desmond was well up for it, but you could tell it was a nice match for the two of them. They're almost identical, height, build, speed. It was a perfect match for both of them. I'd say he's an absolute nightmare to deal with, an absolute nightmare. Probably, like you mentioned, Dave McMillan. he's probably a lot harder to mark than Dave McMillan. Dave McMillan will be a lot taller. But he's not like, he's 6'6" Hooban or anything, but he's definitely a different beast when he's on full tilt. And I'd say Desmond definitely, he'll have sore shins in the morning. It's a swimming pool for him tomorrow morning to cool them legs. I think all the things he'll chase him today. But yeah, look, like you said, he's a baller now. He's a proper. Yeah. Not that he wasn't a footballer. He's now that kind of. You could play him as an attacking midfielder if you need it, because he has that in his locker now.
Like, to come slightly away from the game, just for a split second here, like, we're just talking about improvements to Hooban's game. We're talking about improvements to Sloggett's game, improvement to Dan Kelly. Like, we probably have to really give credit to Stephen O'Donnell and his coaching staff that's really brought these players on, because some of these players are a shell of a player we've seen last year. All of a sudden, the sum of all the parts are creating a team that's suddenly sitting second in the league. We're talking about, who's better, when we are comparing McMillan and Hooban, but now you're kind of thinking, actually, Hooban just brings a whole lot more to your team.
Yeah.
It's not just about goal scoring anymore, yet he's, on course to be a record goal scorer too. Like, so you can't write that off as well. So, like, there's massive work being done by Skip and his coaching staff, Gally, like to get them to playing at this level right now.
Yeah, and that was the number one problem they had. Probably when Stephen O'Donnell was offered the job, that was probably thinking, right, how am I going to change what happened? Like, how do I get these lads together? Like, obviously, Podge coming in as well, taking your right-hand man, which has got to be a big thing as well, because they've worked together so long. They've known each other since, I think I've read, they know each other since they were kids, going on trials. But, and when you're talking about, a full package, you've also got lean bones, and that goes unnoticed all. It's almost like, you forget he's there. He's been there. How long has Liam Bourne's been involved in Dundalk as a coach? We're talking 10 years, are we? And including the playing career, 12, is it? Sean Connor, that kind of era.
Sean Connor, they're playing, with
him in the line,
he's one of our own. Like, that's, it's to have that kind of. Yeah, there's been a lot of people with medical staff and physios, but they're all back now this season, and you can see the players are fit. They want it more. And when we're talking about individuals, Nathan Shepherd, Damon O'Neill as well. I mean. Yeah. You forget that he's the goalkeeping coach up there. That must obviously, he must have a massive influence. He's been at Bowes for years. I think he was involved with the Irish youth setup at one stage. Obviously, the O'Neill is synonymous, with goalkeeping in Oriel Park. But that's Nathan Shepherd's obviously got a lot of admiration for that, because he's brought him on. We've seen Nathan Shepherd play. Was it the Bowes match pre-season? Like, we were like this. We don't know if this was like a player. We just assumed Peter Cherry would be the number one, but It all builds. It's all been selected for a reason. There's plenty of goalkeeping coaches in the country that would love the Dundalk job. He's obviously been selected because Skip wanted him in for a certain reason. And it's all culminating in this. I don't think we're now second in the league. We're a point clear. I think are we four clear of Pats? I'm not if I'm 100% on that one.
I'll be able to put it later anyway, Gally.
Yeah, cheers. But no, like, I mean, we're now. I don't want to be talking about a title race, right? But we're in the mix, and Steph was saying, Captain Positive there on the podcast. I would have thought he was mentally even thinking about that kind of stuff, but we're now in it, and that what Niall was saying, that mental attitude, that positivity, that motivation they have now to want to play. It's a credit to Stephen and all the staff. Yeah, they've been handpicked for a reason. It's all culminating, and now we're going into a season break in the position that we're in.
It's actually
what do you put it down to?
Yeah, I just think again, and I'm sorry, I just checked the table there. We're actually 6 points ahead of Pat at the moment with a game in hand.
I'm
same. I actually wasn't too sure myself, Andrew, to be fair, but I think I did put it down to like just the positivity at the club, and we sort of had a media huddle after the game. With Stephen O'Donnell, and I actually put it to him myself about are we in a title race, and naturally enough he sort of played that down a little bit. He wasn't giving me too much to write about there. He was saying, listen, he was more or less saying, look, if we'd lost 3 in a row, I'd be calling for his head. Do you know what I mean? So which I insisted I wouldn't, but and then I think James Rogers put it to him that like in terms of stats, they're actually a point better off after 18 games than Stephen Kenny was in his first 18 games. Yeah. So which is an amazing stat, really, because look at the success Stephen Kenny went on to have now. I went putting that kind of pressure on Stephen O'Donnell to kind of match that kind of success. That's not going to be replicated by anybody possibly. But it's been an amazing turnaround in a quick period of time from last year, from where we were, and it does remind me a lot of Stephen Kenny's first season in charge. Just the positivity felt around Oriel Park, leaving the place now, and even talking to people about the club at the minute, it just has people are getting that buzz about it again. That just wasn't there the last couple of years because of the negativity that it was shrouded in. Nathan Shepherd has been superb. I know Dermot O'Neill is there as a goalkeeper. My understanding is that Peter Cherry is also sort of almost in an unofficial player coaching role at the minute with Nathan, and that's some great people that Nathan Shepherd can learn off. Dermot O'Neill, Peter Cherry, and you can see he's been a revelation. And even towards the end of the game today, we were really under the cosh. Towards the end of the match tonight, and Shepherd's pulled off a string of saves. He's been sensational, and and again, I don't want to harp on about last year, but when you consider who we had for the majority of last season in goal, obviously it was only when Peter Cherry kind of replaced the BB and that we started our form started to upturn a wee bit, and it's chalk and cheese really when you think about it. You know what I mean? It is chalk and cheese. Last year, effectively, we had a goalkeeper who couldn't catch the ball or couldn't do the basics, and now we've got a goalkeeper, who it probably wouldn't be inconceivable that Nathan Shepherd could go back to the UK in a couple of years and be a Welsh international. It wouldn't be inconceivable.
Yeah.
Considering he's so young as a goalkeeper, a shelf life for a goalkeeper. When you consider Gary Rogers retired at 39 at Dundalk, Shepherd, he's 21. He's got a long shelf life as a goalkeeper, and he's only going to get better. And you can see his confidence improving, and even the little things, even game management, getting the ball and sort of, when we're 1-0 up and sort of keeping it even on the ground, So it's been sensational. He's really been amazing, and possibly we've made a lot of good signings, but Shepherd has to be up there as one of our best signings at the minute.
Yeah, I think we've probably put off the inevitable, and it's time to talk about Nathan Shepherd tonight, lads. There was a call for the big save that he made in Ballybuffet to for everyone to see it after the match, but you could have a highlight reel on tonight's performance alone for the big saves that he made. We talked about one very early in the match that he just had to tip over the crossbar, but there was the one in the second half where he just managed to flick one-handed up over the crossbar. It's a hell of a save, but Gally, he's in the right place at the right time with blocks. There was punches, there was packed boxes. I mean, I think if you were looking, when you just look at a goalkeeper and you're thinking, what attributes do you need? You have to be able to catch, but you have to know when to punch sometime. You have to be confident running through players. You also have to know when you're jumping for a ball, which I seen him do, in the first half. If there's an opposition player, make sure you go down and you get the free kick out of it. It was smart in every way today, wasn't it?
Yeah, when you throw that back to his early games, well, Conley and Boyle were just on him all the time for not calling for balls, not commanding the area. He runs the show back there. Anything that drops in behind Conley and Boyle, he's all over it. It's you want to say it's unexpected. It's beyond unexpected because we spoke about this in pre-season. We've seen the game, a couple of games. This guy, we don't it was hard enough to fan him because he looked small for a goalkeeper. He's like Georgie Campos. That guy, nobody really expected it, but his reflexes, his timing, he is sensational. Like Niall, people might say, oh, he won't play for, he mightn't play for Wales. He very well could. I mean, if you go through the list of Welsh goalkeepers at the minute, he's not a kick in the arse away from them. I really think we're looking at an absolute top class goalkeeper in the making. I know, it's League of Ireland, I get it, but if you got to stop us at one thing. If you're producing that kind of reflex, one of his saves tonight, I can throw my mind back. Now, it's not identical. If Gavin McLaughlin watches this, he'll know what I'm talking about. Peter Schmeichel pulled off a save against Rapid Vienna, mid-90s Champions League match, and he's tipped it over the bar from the ground. Now, I'm not saying that's the same level, but the timing and the reflex of that tonight was just reminiscent of it. I think, I don't want to tip anybody for player of the season, or goalkeeper of the year in the league, but it's going to go a long way to beat him. McGinty, it would be a front runner as well, but I could talk about him all night. I think he's top class, top class, and obviously we're biased, but he is.
Yeah, but like you said, Andrew, you could have a highlights reel that could be 20 minutes long already. Of the saves he's made, and even going back to the save he made against Rovers in the first quarter of games, and then like obviously the corresponding fixture in Inchicore against St. Pat's, where he made a string of fine saves in that game as well. Tonight he's done it again. He made a great save in Ballybuffet Monday night from Ryan Connolly. You know, his actually what I noticed about him is his agility is actually unbelievable. To be honest, his agility is unbelievable, and I know these. I know we're mentioning all these buzzwords about reflexes, agility, position, and all this kind of stuff, and commanding. But this is something that his predecessor just didn't have any of those attributes, I suppose. And and I'm not, you know, Shepherd's done brilliantly. Like, I don't think it's a case of us setting where the bar was set so low last year with our goalkeeper, our first choice goalkeeper in a baby, where we're looking at Shepherd now and thinking, oh, he's amazing. I genuinely think he's one of the best. He's a really, really good goalkeeper, and he's one of the better goalkeepers we've had. And I know it's 18 games, and it's, you know, things can change very quickly, especially with goalkeepers and psychology and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, like, he really is. It's kind of frightening how good he is at 21. Like, there's not many 21-year-old. Like, obviously, maybe McGinty, as Andrew mentioned, with Sligo was also in and around the same age, I believe. Like, it's not a thing you see very often, a goalkeeper that age playing first team senior football and, you know, performing like that. And he is learning as he's going along, as you can see that even his game management and stuff like that, he's learning as he's going on. And again, like, just taking a look at him, like, you know, he looks like a lad who's playing for like the under 15 school team. Do you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't, like, he looks younger than 21. Do you know that kind of way? And he's very fresh faced, and, you know, he's absolutely sensational. And, you know, we actually spoke to him after the game in, I want to say I think it actually was against St. Pat's in Inchicore. And just a very unassuming lad, you know, doesn't take a fidge out of him. He's just taking it all in stride at the moment. And he's sensational. I'm a big fan of his at the minute. And, you know, we might finally have a sort of replacement for Gary Rogers on our hands here.
And what I find, sorry, Chris, just to bookend that one, like, you all, like, when we're watching him and you know, a striker goes in, you're almost expecting now that he saves it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're almost saying, well, it's not 50-50. The you know, the percentage here with Shepherd, because he's such a good goalkeeper, because he can command an area so well now, you're almost thinking it's not even a half chance for the striker. It's an awful pun for a goalkeeper though. But you're almost expecting the benefit, you know, the kind of the advantages with the goalkeeper all the time with Nathan Shepherd. Whereas obviously last year we weren't thinking that, but, you know, you're expecting that, no, he'll save this, it'll be fine, blah blah blah. And that's just what he's done over the last couple of weeks. It's just he's instilled everybody with this confidence, people watching, that he will stop this. You know, with the exception of maybe a penalty, you're expecting to almost save everything.
Yeah.
And you know, Niall, the other thing with Nathan, it's something we've talked about on the show here as well. You know, and Gally's mentioned it already tonight, when Conley has a big influence sometimes on his performances, because they have such a good understanding now. Like, Conley come in with his expertise at the back, and we're talking about last year where, you know, people were probably in their shell and didn't want to make mistakes. Towards with big players this year, they're kind of chest out. Conley is an absolute leader back there.
Yeah.
And you can see his influence coming onto Nathan and calling when to come, when not to come, and, you know, and they're quick to criticize, but they're quick to give the plaudits as well to each other during the match.
Absolutely. And, you know, that sort of stuff breeds confidence in a team, just that sort of togetherness and encouragement. You know, Connolly, who would be a more senior player, obviously he's played in the Scottish Premiership and in England for many years. And, you know, actually he's been another tremendous signing, actually. You know, he's come in on loan from Dundee United. You can just see straight away the sort of professionalism that he's brought. I know it's a cliche, but he is a professional, and that's what he is. He's a born professional, and, you know, he sets a very high standard. And I've spoken to him a couple of times after games, and, you know, he's very reflective on matches himself. You know, even if he got a good result, he demands a lot, and he's been sensational. And actually, to be honest, you know, I know his loan's running out now on the 30th of June. Mark Connolly, I'd be putting out all the stops to be trying to keep him on, because him and Boyle have formed a really good partnership. I think Boyle was brilliant tonight as well, actually, in my opinion. And I think Connolly, obviously, as a lot of the people have mentioned in the comments, has put in another amazing performance. But I'd be putting all the stops in. I know he's been linked with a move to the Irish League, and up north. He doesn't want to go back to Dundee United. That's my understanding. He's going to stay on this island at least, is my own understanding. Whether that's under a loan spell or a transfer, because his contract with Dundee United is, I think it's next summer. It is when it runs out. So it's very hard to see him going back to Dundee United one way or the other. It's a whether case Kent and Doc pull out the stops to get him. If it's a budget thing, if I was Skip, I'd be going to the ownership and trying to get every cent to keep him. Like, because if you lose someone like that, you see Derry. Derry had started the season very well, and then suddenly they got a couple of injuries. Kieran Harkin and Michael Duffy obviously in the first game. Suddenly they're struggling a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, you can't lose players like that. And you look, you kind of go back like those two signings alone, Nathan Shepherd and Mark Connolly. You've effectively replaced Alessio Obibi and Sonny Nottestad with Nathan Shepherd and Mark Connolly.
Yeah.
It's like it's not
good
rocket
times.
Science.
Good times.
Good times, of course. Yeah, me and Jerry were reminiscing on the way home about the good old days last year. And we plenty to write about. Like, we've got nothing to write about now, which is it's kind of boring at the moment. Like,
you try doing a podcast every game.
Yeah, I'm not complaining now. I'm happy enough. Like, it's actually a lot less stressful. There's less chance of solicitors out coming in the door and stuff. Like, so I'm happy enough with that. Like, but it's been amazing. But they've been two magnificent signings. And it's and even like Paul Doyle coming in and Stephen Bradley on loan as well, Joe Adams, it's I could go on and on and on. Even Sam Bone, he's put in the last couple of games, he's put in a really good shift. When he was needed. Lewis McCarry is another player who's improved. Unfortunately, it looks like Lewis McCarry will be going back to Stoke in the summer. There's probably not much we can do about that one. But you'd like to hope that maybe John Mountney's come back closer to full fitness, and maybe he can just take that right back berth now, and we can just go as we are, because he's. And also, I can't leave tonight without mentioning Keith Ward. Actually, I think probably the shrewdest signing we've made, arguably, is probably Keith Ward, because I think every one of us, probably myself included, admittedly, probably raised their eyebrows when Keith Ward came back for a third spell at the club.
Mm-hmm.
When you going back to Ian Foster, he was the first manager who brought him in. But my word, like he's probably been like the shrewdest signing that O'Donnell's made. Like, bringing him on for the last 30 minutes in games, and stuff like that. Like, he's
just on that then, we've been talking about how influential substitutes have been for Skip over the past while. Like bringing in Bone today, just when Dara Burns was getting the run of Oriel Park, was a real shrewd move, because we needed to shore up that side, because everything was coming down that one channel. And he was wreaking havoc on Dara Leahy, and we had to do something. So, Skip has also shown that, he's not scared to make these substitutes that sometimes are not influential to win games, as in on the other end of the pitch. It's important sometimes to shore up what you already have. You have the lead, I'm going to keep it out, and this is an important substitute to make. Yeah,
like tactically, he's getting a lot of things right. And I know I was here a few weeks ago and we mentioned some of the substitutions, and you didn't want to take too much credit again for that. But I mean, a manager will always feel good when things like that work out. And, tactically, he's getting a lot right. And that's a sign of a very good manager, obviously, at the risk of sounding obvious. You know what I mean? Bone,
he's got confidence in his bench, hasn't he?
He does. And Bone, has obviously played some paths with him last year, and with no, Dara Burns, and with no the attacking threat. It's and even John Martin's another player who's made a massive impact off the bench in recent weeks. He created the goal against Derry at the Ryan McBride Brandywell last week, and he made that goal. And these are players and we've talked about maybe I spoke to a couple of other journalists after the game tonight, and maybe what Derry are lacking at the minute is that squad depth. And maybe that's why they're kind of in free fall at the moment, because they can't really empty the bench. Derry at the minute, they haven't really got a lot on the bench. And Dundalk can bring on McMillan, Dave McMillan, John Martin, Sam Bone, Keith Ward. Yeah. These players can be brought on tonight, and we maybe some of us would have questioned what's our squad depth actually like. But considering we aren't in Europe this year, we can operate with a smaller squad, and we're using that squad. All these players are being used, and they're making an impact. Every player's playing their part at the minute. It feels like a real team unit.
It's not substitutions for substitution's sake. It's they're coming on with a purpose, and they're performing.
There's a real purpose to it, and and he's not afraid to rotate the squad either. I know he's been criticised by some people for maybe going with the same team sometimes, but he has rotated when appropriate. And, obviously Monday night in Ballybuffet, he had to make a few changes and did, and we came out with the win. He's had to bring players back in tonight to come out with the win. Like 9 points in those 3 games and 4 wins on the bounce now, and 7 unbeaten. It's a results business, and you can't argue with that. It's been, and they're playing good. Like, I know they've had to dig deep in a couple of the last games, but for the most part, they've played some brilliant football. The performance in Derry last week was without doubt their best away performance of the season. And at home, they just look unbeatable at home at the minute. It's hard to see any team beating them at home. And I know that obviously the Sligo Rovers game in the showgrounds looks like it's not going to be played on that date, at least with the international call-ups. So they've got a few weeks now before the next game, and that's actually incidentally at home against Shamrock Rovers. And they've a game in hand on Rovers. So if they beat Shamrock Rovers and win their game in hand, you're now looking at a situation where there could be 2 points behind first place, and I don't want to jinx them by any means.
I was just going to say Jerry Malone's going to be on. If Jerry Malone's on that night, it is going to be carnage.
That scenario.
You might have to pre-record that one in fairness, because Jerry might, he wasn't too pleased with you, Chris, now tonight. Jerry's good though. Jerry will give you something. I'd say you might get a few views from the States and everything with Jerry on. Like, it's
definitely
his reach knows no bounds.
Just on the McCarry. So you understand he's going back. Do you think he's going back to Stoke, or is there something, somebody else got an eye on him in there, or is it just going back to train and play with that setup at the minute?
Yeah, well, my understanding, Andrew, on that at the moment is that Michael O'Neill, of course, is the ex Shamrock Rovers and Northern Ireland manager, is now, he's obviously managing Stoke now. My understanding is that they've been very impressed with his progress in a short space of time at Dundalk, and obviously the local media in Stoke have obviously reported that he might have even been coming back even before his loan spell had finished on the 30th of June. Obviously, that's not going to be the case. Unfortunately, I wouldn't at this moment be holding too much hope that we'll keep him beyond the 30th of June. Whether he comes into the Stoke team or gets another loan move out maybe to League One or League Two remains to be seen in England. But it certainly looks like he's going to be part of the first team plans, at least in pre-season.
Okay. If that's what he's going back for, then look, you can't really... You'd hate to think and go back.
Well, you'd certainly hope so. Yeah, you'd certainly hope so. Yeah, you'd certainly hope so, Andrew, because he's done he alone has developed into a better player than when he came in, because he struggled at the beginning, and albeit not entirely his own fault, he was playing out of position and left back for a good few of the games early on, and maybe looked a little bit out of place. But since he's gone into the right back berth, he's actually looked really, really good, and a player I'd naturally love to keep at the club beyond the 30th of June, but that's looking a little bit unlikely. I'd probably hold more hope maybe keeping someone like Connolly beyond that date. I think a lot of us would be appalled if Connolly was gone after the 30th of June, because how do you replace someone like that? You know what I mean? Like, he's been so influential immediately. It's very rare to see a player coming in immediately and having that influence on a team. You know what I mean? It's But yeah, McCarry, it seems to be the case that he's probably going to be part of the first team plans there in the not too distant future. And Michael O'Neill, I understand, is quite impressed with his progress here in Oriel.
Okay. Well, look, just before we turn to our man of the match competition, I suppose, Gally, I was looking pre-match there, and there's Alan Clark out on the pitch tonight. There's a couple of players now. I think Skip will definitely go back, the likes of Conley, and just say, look, you've seen what an influence he had tonight. Let's nail this down. Let's get this done. We have a window now. Let's just get it all done.
Yeah, even Alan's there tonight. Sean O'Connor's at a lot of the games as well. It sits in front of me there. So, it's not like they haven't seen it firsthand. Now, look, you don't want them overspending either. We've been down this road before, of people, spending stupid money, but I don't think that'd be the case here. I think obviously look at Mark's a local fella. He's only from out the road. Clonus Cafu, as Chris gave him the title earlier this season. It seems only stuck with me. I'm not sure. It hasn't caught on with Mickey Duffy at Oriel Park yet on the tannoy. But yeah, look, if it's whatever it is, provided it's reasonable and it's not extortionate, we don't really know what the situation is. Maybe just a buy. I don't know what it is. If he's got a year left, there might be something fun maybe there. But you can't begrudge. Dundee can't really begrudge a player who wants to come home and play. Yes, there might be interest from Irish League. I'm surprised there hasn't been interest from. I'm sure there's interest from Irish League. I'd say maybe even the League of Ireland, if they get wind that he could be, available. I'd be looking. What can we do? Let's pay him diesel money, whatever it is, short somebody else's wages, get him, because players like that, you won't be able to sign a player like that because you're halfway through a season. You won't be able to sign a player that'll come in and will have an impact like that straight out the gate, unless you go and sign an established League of Ireland player. But you're not going to get one, halfway through a season, unless there's some problem with our club at the minute. So for me, yeah, he's got to stay, even if it's just till the end of the season. Say, look, you can say what you want to do then, but yeah, keeping him would be. We're at the stage where keeping him would be like a new signing. That's how vital he is to the club at the minute, because obviously Garth's injury worries and stuff like that. He comes in, it just doesn't seem to be his night. But if you lose someone like that, Sam Bone's a perfectly decent replacement, but he's not that kind of leadership, that kind of player you need. Yeah, you've effectively got two Andy Boyles at the back.
Yeah,
that's what you're talking about. You're going to need that. You're going to be having this title run that we're about to talk about for the next couple of weeks. We're going to need players like that.
Speaking of having two Andy Boyles at the back, Donald, welcome to the show.
Yeah, how's it going, boys?
How are you, pal?
What's the story?
I'm all right. I spent a good 20 minutes at the end of the game. Anybody that was opening the league table, I would tell them to shut it down. Don't look at it. Don't look at it. Don't look at it. Because we went into the bar and we were 2 points, 3 points ahead of Derry or 2 points ahead of Derry, and then within 2 minutes it's like, no, not anymore. This is why we don't look at the league table. It's too early. It's too early. There's too many games happening.
You with that, I just got abused by Jerry Malone, so I don't know which.
Yeah, I'm just going to say for clarity, I haven't heard anything that's been said before the last 2 minutes. So
buckle in.
I'm a little bit behind.
Buckle in when you're listening back, pal.
I need to get check out now. I don't have to listen to the full lot. I don't have to listen to myself again.
Yeah. We were just about to get into the man of the match competition, but your thoughts on the match tonight?
Look, it's hard to not see like the progression every single week and be like, this team is getting better and better and better and better, and the players are getting better and better. I know you guys were just talking about Mark Connolly, and there's a thing of he can tell a good centre back when everybody in the stand knows when he's about to go and win a header, because he shouts loud enough for the entire ground to know, oh yeah, this is Connolly's ball. Yeah, I'll leave this one alone. He's coming. Yeah. Like he's been excellent. Like the worry, like the thing I've been worried about all week since the results of the weekend is that we're all going to start getting ahead of ourselves, and we're all going to think this team is a title challenging team. Now, whether they are or not, there's no proof that they are. There's some players in there that have won titles before, obviously, but as a collective and the management staff and everything, it's like we have to just deep breaths. But they were great. First half, they were very good. Didn't create a lot of chances. I don't know if maybe I'm forgetting stuff, but they were organised, and we have best goalkeeper in the league, who's just been outstanding. And
you just showing your hand for man of the match there.
Well, actually, I was going to say somebody else, but I mean, I don't know if it's going to matter. Who I pick.
Sure. It's one of two. Let's just put it this way. It's definitely one of two players.
I haven't seen any of the comments, and I'm like, I know one of them. I'm not.
Yeah. Well, look, let's go around the house then on this. Gally, I'll come to you first because you just took a big mouthful of water. Your man of the match tonight.
I actually would. I would throw a third person into the mix. For me, Greg Slogger was excellent tonight. I wouldn't disagree with Connolly or Shepherd. Greg Slogger for a special mention, but I mean, if we're going to actually nail this on, I have to go for Sheps and goal. Yeah, there's no
some sloggers there, pal.
Connolly was excellent, but I'm look, goalkeepers. That's their job. This kind of crack. I don't want to say like Roy Keane, but it's the type of saves, his reflexes, like Niall was mentioned, his reflexes, his timing, his command of the area. Now it looks so simple, but it's we don't know. Chris, you were a goalkeeper. you'll be able to tell us. But you know,
hang on,
it can't be that simple because
at 41. I've been on a year.
But no, for me, no, I'm going to go for the keeper. Yeah, I don't think I've gone for too many times this season, but I'm going to go for the keeper. Yeah.
Okay, Niall.
Yeah, I actually agree with Andrew's sentiments completely there about Sloggett. I think, he was outstanding tonight. I thought Andy Boyle was outstanding tonight. Connolly, as we've mentioned, was outstanding. But this had the back pairing of Boyle and Connolly. Like, nothing was getting past them. And I thought both of them were nearly as good as each other, like, at times. You know what I mean? We spoke a lot about Connolly, obviously, but I thought Boyle was brilliant. Dan Kelly getting the winning goal again, made a nuisance of himself for the goal. And in general on the night, Pat's struggled with him. But for me, and obviously we mentioned Pat Hoban and his work rate throughout the night. But again, it has to be for me, it has to be Nathan Shepherd. Like, the saves just at that period of the game where Pats were really sort of up in the ante, I suppose, and pushing for that equaliser. And we'd sort of, you can kind of see that we'd gotten a bit tired at that stage. A lot of games in the last 7 days, 3 games in the last 7 days, 2 of them in the Northwest, and we needed to dig deep. And
he clawed games at that time as well.
That's exactly, yeah. So you could see that we were running out a bit of steam. The breaks come at a good time in that regard, I suppose. But we got out with the win, and I think that you can attribute those 3 points or that period, that last 10, 15-minute period, to some of the saves Shepherd made, and just his confidence and his command. The saves were actually there was 3 or 4 of them just back to back there for like a 2-minute spell, and I was struggling to keep up. Like, he was sensational, and even for that spell alone, I'm going to have to give it to Nathan Shepherd. But it was another one of those nights where 5 or 6 players could easily take that mantle, and that's always a good sign, because that wasn't the case last season, as we mentioned.
Definitely. Donald.
Yeah, so Niall stole my Andy Boyle shout out because I thought Andy Boyle was excellent. And there was points throughout the game where he was doing, it was like a little subtle thing of just getting to the Pats players at the right time and reading the game really well. And it's like, it's not a slide tackle. It's not a lung busting run it's just simple things that he was doing really, really well. And he made it, I thought he was excellent. And Connolly was excellent as well. I don't know if you were talking about Lewis McCarry as well, but how good Lewis McCarry's been.
Yeah.
I thought he was excellent again tonight. It's hard to not give it to the goalkeeper, though, because you're giving a man of the match for tonight, but you're also thinking, we talked, I think, on the Derry one was the last time I was on, and we were talking about how last season that game gets away from us and we don't win, that we can see the goal and then we lose the run of ourselves with 50 minutes to go and we concede again. And the thing that we forget as well is, if we're one up in Finn Harps and that shot comes in and it's somebody other than Shepherd in goals, then that's not a win. And I think tonight, the difference between us getting the 3 points and continuing our trajectory is the goalkeeper keeps us in it. He's incredibly important, and he's getting better every single game. And it's like the shot stopping and everything is always going to be good. He's been good at that from the beginning, but the command in the area and he's coming in for crosses and stuff now that I'm still like, I'll see him come for a cross sometimes and be like, I don't even know if you should go for this one. And then he'll just, clobber someone and win it. So I would have given it, like, Andy Boyle would be the second choice, but I'd say Sheps as man of the match.
Yeah.
I love this. So Gally bigged up Sloggett, but in the end just went for Shepherd. Niall bigged up Connolly and Boyle and went for Shepherd at the end. You bigged up Boiler, went for Shepherd in the end. I'm just going for I'm just...
Do you not have somebody that you want to fill with false hope before you give it to Shepherd? No?
I feel like I'd be stealing the pizza away from somebody at the last minute. It's like naming everybody else bar the person who actually going to win. So thanks for the comments tonight. There's plenty of comments tonight. Pretty close between Shepherd and Connolly, between and Sloggett there for a good few as well. I think we'll our pizza tonight, our 15-inch Tony's Pizza, will go to Bez McGuinness for calling Shepherd the Flying Welshman. So
Good man, Bez.
we've a new title
Well done.
for that. So congratulations. And
it's amazing the amount of comments. It's mad. We're talking about positivity earlier on. Like, there's some nights on this show we had last year, and it was like, never mind comments, there was nobody watching. You know, and we're on later than we normally are. We're running a wee bit over time. And the comments, that spills out from the players, the coach. We were talking about it at night earlier on. Well, it's great to see, and like nice wee 2-week break now. Hopefully they don't lose the run of themselves. They've all had new haircuts, so I'm assuming there's a couple of holidays coming up. Everybody in that
there's a wedding coming in there.
More on the holidays. But look, it's great.
I think I don't know, Niall, if it was mentioned in the huddle there at the end, but I know Dave Mackey did state I think they have a break for a week and a half or something. Well, they're not back in for a week and a half after, so I think a well-earned rest for a couple of these players. I think the Welsh lads will probably get a chance to go back home now as well.
Yeah, it's a good chance for some of the boys to sort of decompress a little bit, because it's been a rough sort of an arduous sort of spell in the last couple of weeks. But I think I think he was saying, Skip was kind of saying that he was hoping to maybe when they do get back, maybe get some sort of friendly organised, even if it's an in-house friendly, just to keep the team sharp, because although the break is absolutely required at the minute, the fact that we're on such good form, you know, you don't want that to you're sort of hoping it doesn't hamper our form, because obviously we got our Sligo game on the 11th of June. It's probably not going to go ahead in that date either. That's not official yet, but suffice to say that game won't be going ahead. So our next game will be probably 3 weeks from tonight against Shamrock Rovers. But on the plus side, you know, you could close the gap on them and maybe go 2 points behind them if you win your game in hand. So
I love what Donald
did, you know.
Donald, this is perfect for you when we bring up the table.
Yeah, I was just looking at apparently my worst fear is a panda falling off a ladder. Anyway, I'm gonna, can I publicly apologize to Derry? Because because I said they were going to be fine 2 weeks ago, or like after we beat them, and they've lost twice since, and I feel like it's my fault, or not lost twice, but like
it is your fault.
I was like, yeah, no, they'll be fine. They'll win. They'll beat Sligo and they'll beat Finn Harps and they'll be back in the race. And they haven't done either. So
you jinxed them.
I think it's got something to do with me, and I apologize.
Oh, well, could you do it to a few other teams? And on that note, so still top of the league is Shamrock Rovers, 19 games played, 42 points, followed by ourselves in second position on 34, a point clear of Derry below with a game in hand also over them. But Derry are in third place on 33 points, then a gap back of 5 points to Pats now, behind Derry in fourth on 28 points, gap back of 3, then to Sligo and Shelbourne, a point between them in 5th and 6th respectively, then Bows behind them then in 7th. Bit of a gap then of 3 points to Drogheda on 20, and then Finn Harps on 11, and UCD picking up a point tonight in bottom position. I think, lads, one of the most telling things when you look at that as well is the form table. If you just look at the little green ticks going on the side, it's very, very consistent from our side, isn't it?
Exactly what you're looking for. Like,
yeah,
I mean, when you look at it there, like I know Derry, but even if you look at there's nobody around us apart from Rovers, and even, you know, ours is better. You know, they just, you know what I mean. Like it's if you look at Derry, like Derry's an absolute shocker. Like Derry's up there with Finn Harps, and look at the gap in the league. You know what I mean? Derry are just, they need the break. Whereas we don't really want it, but Derry actually need a break now to kind of say, look at lads, knock some heads together. Yeah.
Look, now I think consistency is something that's probably put us into that position, and it's very telling when you look at that. You know, only 2 losses for a whole year, 9 wins. The run that we're on there, undefeated over the past while. We've took 2 big away matches in the past 2 matches that you know most people would fear going to those venues, especially when you have to do it Friday, Monday, back to back on them as well, and you know, to come out with the 6 points from there and keep your home record, it's unreal, isn't it?
It is, and you know, even looking at the form table there, like I can't remember the last time we won 4 matches on the bounce. possibly 2019, maybe the year we won the league under Vinny. It's probably the last time we actually managed to do that. So it just shows that, you know, the sort of feel good factors we brought back to the club. I think Stephen O'Donnell, although he won't want to talk too much about that, has to take a lot of credit for the turnaround. The belief he's instilled in his players is there for all to see. We mentioned players earlier on, the likes of Dan Kelly, Greg Slogger, players who maybe weren't performing at their best last season, are looking like the players we all thought they were when we signed them. And that's a testament to the coach and the coaching team, you know, Dave Mackey, Patrick Craig, all the coaching team, I suppose, the players around them. You know, there's a real togetherness about us at the minute, which is very, very promising. I'm not saying we're going to win the league this year. Even if we can mount the challenge, that would be great. Like, we all remember Stephen Kenny's first season in 2013, where we kind of came from, we were a fair bit behind, and we kind of came from nowhere, went on this great run. And I just remember the buzz of that season and coming into the final few games. Even to get something like that would be a massive, massively great job done from Stephen O'Donnell. Third or fourth was the target. It looks like we put some severe daylight between ourselves now and St. Pat's. We have 6 points ahead of them now with a game less played. You know, I think it's safe to say, like, barring an absolute capitulation in the second half of the season, we should be looking at a European qualification at the minimum. And that's something that we all would have ripped your hand off at the start of the season for. And, you know, I'd be very happy with that at the moment. Very happy.
Donald, we're all staying grounded here. Don't you worry. You don't have to slap this table off the screen or anything like that. But just when you look at some of the facts there, even, you know, goals against, we've the second best goal conceded record in the league, with two more than Shamrock Rovers on 12 and 14, and goals for we're third best in the league there as well. So you've got Shamrock Rovers and Derry both have scored 33. We're next then on 27. Like, you know, let's face it, goals conceded column was quite large last year.
Yeah.
So
I think it was even
defense all of a sudden halfway through a season is a stark change.
I think we not even see I think we not even see the 14 in one game at Damon Park last year.
Yeah, that was a dark day. And even if you look at like the goals that we've conceded, how many of them were the first couple of games? Like when everybody was getting to know each other, like that was when we shipped.
At least 4, I think, wasn't it? Jack?
Yeah,
at least 4 in the first
so
2
like,
games.
The defensive record's been absolutely incredible, and it's down to everybody. It's like the goalkeeper's obviously going to get a lot of attention because of the saves that he makes and stuff, but there's bits and pieces that everybody's improved on, like on the communication, which I guess like between Andy Boyle and Connolly, they're really, really good at it, but they just seem to understand how to play with each other now. Like you look at things like balls into the box, and there would have been, say, in the first couple of weeks, probably a bit of confusion about crosses and corners. And
I'll take the table away. Don't freak you out anymore. Sorry.
You took Gally away as well. Does Gally come with the league table? Is that
yeah, he was holding it up. I'm back home now.
But yeah, so everybody getting used to playing with each other and balls into the box and stuff like that might have been causing confusion between the goalkeeper not knowing if he was gonna come out for it or if he should, or the defenders not knowing whether he was going to come for them or not, and just bits like that. Like they seem to have gotten a decent understanding between them, and like the keeper's making a couple of great saves tonight, and he seems to have a world-class save almost every game, but they're not giving up. They're not being bombarded either. You know, like they're from the midfield trying to control the game and winning the ball back. They're not being bombarded with chances like they were at different points last season. It's not just a fluke that they're not conceding goals. They're as a team, they're working incredibly hard. I thought there was a point there towards the end of the second half that Keith Ward obviously chased somebody back the length of the field to push somebody out for a goal kick, and then he moved positions, and Dickie Kelly went to play like that left side, and then he was chasing people back. Like everybody's working incredibly hard to keep that record up. And you know, like the stupid football talk of like clean sheets will win you titles and win you games and stuff. It's when you see a game like tonight, it's so obvious.
Yeah. Like 7 clean sheets in 18 games is a hell of a record. And now, if you really just wanted to compare and contrast fortunes, sometimes you make your own fortune a lot in football. But I think was it Darley went to clear a ball and it just ricocheted off a player and it just sat right in front of goal, right from Mark Connolly. I think it was just to clear it. Last year that ended up in the back or something. Like we were gifting them, but all of a sudden it's night and day.
Yeah, we were leaking goals left, right, and centre last season. Like, you know what I mean? And like I said, I do remember that game in particular in Dalymount, which stands out. Where we lost, I think it was 5-0 at half time or something. And this is back when fans weren't able to go to games. So I was one of the unfortunate few who was actually there. And I remember we spoke to Jim Magilton after the game, and I think Jerry asked him a question and he just walked off. Like, so that was the kind of atmosphere. That was the kind of atmosphere that we were kind of.
He didn't keep walking though. That was the problem.
Putting up. Well, this is it, And but look, as I said, and as Chris you mentioned there, those little bounces and ricochets, like you find when it's going for you, it's going for you. And like I said, you make your own luck. And like tonight, they were good value for the win tonight. Don't get me wrong, but we had to get that bit of luck as well. We needed those little things, and now see Shep's making those string of saves towards the end. But our defence was superb, and our defence has been superb, as Donald rightfully pointed out there. Like the 14 goals you conceded, a good chunk of them came in the opening round of games. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's definitely conceded 4. We conceded 2 in each of the first 2 games. So, and also a lot of the goals I also have to mention is a lot of the goals we conceded were actually penalties as well. Yeah. Like, they were from the penalty spot, and we haven't conceded too many from open play. I must look at the actual stats on that later, but we haven't conceded too many from open play. And that's testament to the back 4 and the goalkeeper at the minute. And it's absolutely chalk and cheese to what we were discussing last year. And I'm so happy about that. You know what I mean? It's not good for the paper necessarily. You get better headlines when things are going wrong. And I'm sure you guys have the same the podcast. Yeah, like you get better headlines when things aren't going so well. But like first and foremost, we are supporters and we want to see the team doing well, and that's what I want. And I'm actually enjoying what Stephen O'Donnell's doing. I'm enjoying his style of football. I'm enjoying this team. And for the first time maybe since, I know Vinnie Perrott won the league in 2019, but maybe since the first time since then, we're actually enjoying watching this team. But I think even back in 2019, a lot of us kind of sensed that something horrific is in the pipeline here, and that obviously happened. And some, there's definitely there's a lot of similarities with Stephen Kenny's first season here at the Ramsey. Even the slow start, like Stephen Kenny had a bit of a slowish start. It must be said. When he came in, and it sort of took a time for the team to sort of gel, and you can see a lot of similarities, even in the style of play and the way the season's going at the minute. So yeah, it's brilliant.
Definitely. Well, look, thanks lads for jumping on. Thanks to Dundalk Village, our main sponsor of the podcast. Thanks to Tony's Pizzeria for our Man of the Match competition, and for Player Fit for this wonderful T-shirt that Donald currently is. There we go. And I'll lift this up if I could. There you go.
Yeah, this is why I was late for the podcast. I was trying to find this.
Trying to iron it. There's no Steph or anything tonight to sign us off. Donald, if you have anything you want to sign us off on tonight?
No, I have got one line that I'll say before you can hit the button. But I just wanted to say that in the bar after the game, Stephen O'Donnell.
It's better than my Malone story.
Stephen O'Donnell came in, and a few of the players came in and chatted with everybody. And just that Niall was saying about the difference between this year and last year, the bond that's been built between these players and this coaching staff and the fans is phenomenal. And the difference between this year and last year is light and day. Now, having said that, are you ready with the?
Oh, hang on. Niall looks like he's got something to say.
No, just to follow up on what Donald was saying there, like even after the game, like when we were, waiting for players for post-match and stuff, even like kids getting autographs and stuff like that, and the players sort of, and O'Donnell, having great time for all the supporters and things like that. It's great to see it, and it wasn't something that we're seeing last year. And I just want to follow up on that. Yeah, no, it's great to see it.
So on a night where Jerry Malone called me out in front of all the Dundalk players, made me march the whole way back up, and proclaimed he's going to be on this podcast on the 14th or the 17th. anyone will go for it. Yeah.
All right, I have to go back and listen. Okay. Frank stole my line. No chefs, no party.